My name is Ambrose Whitfield. I am 42 years old, and I've worked law enforcement patrol for Mojave National Preserve for 16 years, specializing in overnight off highway vehicle monitoring at Kelso Dunes, a 45 square mile dune field rising 650 feet above the desert floor, where illegal OV activity threatens sensitive habitat, requiring continuous enforcement presence during nighttime hours when violations typically occur. Before we begin, let us know in the comments where you are watching from, please. Kelso Dunes represent one of the tallest dune systems in North America, formed by windblown sand, accumulating over thousands of years in the Mojave Desert's interior basin. My work involves overnight patrol, using specialized vehicles capable of navigating sand terrain, monitoring for illegal OVAV incursions, documenting resource damage, and ensuring visitor compliance with regulations protecting this unique geological formation. Off-highway vehicle patrol requires systematic coverage of vast dune areas during nighttime hours, when illegal riders attempt to avoid detection. Using night vision equipment to identify violations while navigating challenging sand terrain, where vehicle recovery from bogging requires specialized extraction techniques. This happened last October during routine overnight patrol operations. I departed the Kelso Dunes parking area around 9 p.m., conducting systematic sweeps of the dune field perimeter and interior sections where OV tracks indicate frequent illegal access, despite closure regulations protecting sensitive habitat. Weather conditions showed clear skies with temperature around 65 degrees. Typical October evening in the Mojave, where daytime heat moderates after sunset, but sand retains warmth accumulated during daylight hours. Around midnight, while patrolling approximately 2 miles into the dune field's interior, I observed something impossible regarding the sand dunes and their physical positioning. The dunes were rotating, not wind-driven sand movement. The entire massive sand formations were turning like gears, with individual dune ridges rotating around vertical axes, creating coordinated mechanical movement throughout the dune field, as if the landscape was operating as connected machinery. I've patrolled Kelso Dunes for 16 years. Sand dunes shift gradually through wind deposition and erosion occurring over weeks and months. Dunes don't rotate mechanically. Geological formations aren't machinery. Yet I was watching massive 600-foot-tall sand ridges, turning with coordinated mechanical precision, as if the entire dune field was a system of rotating gears. Through my patrol vehicle position, I observed detailed impossible movement. Individual dune ridges were rotating clockwise or counterclockwise, depending on their position within the field, with adjacent dunes turning in opposite directions like intermeshed gears. The rotation was visible. Sand on the dune faces was moving in circular patterns around vertical axes through the dune centers. Using my vehicle's GPS and landmark references, I documented the rotational movement. A prominent dune ridge I'd used as a navigation reference for years was rotating approximately 15 degrees per m in Ute clockwise. An adjacent dune was rotating counterclockwise at the same rate. The coordinated opposed rotation created the appearance of mechanical gears, despite these being natural sand formations. The dune rotation continued for approximately 55 minutes. During that time, the entire visible dune field operated as coordinated machinery, with dozens of individual dunes rotating at consistent rates and patterns, suggesting mechanical connection. Despite being separate geological features composed of loose sand without structural frameworks enabling gear, like mechanical gear operation, most unsettling was hearing the rotation. The moving sand produced mechanical sounds, grinding, clicking, precise rhythmic tones, suggesting metal gears rather than flowing sand. The acoustic characteristics weren't wind or natural sand movement, but sounded like industrial machinery operating beneath the dunes, driving the impossible rotation. Around 12:55 am, all rotation abruptly ceased. Within moments, the dunes returned to static positions. The sand formations resumed their normal fixed state as if the previous 55 minutes of coordinated mechanical rotation had never occurred. GPS measurements confirmed dune positions matched my established navigation references. The rotations had completely reversed, returning formations to their original orientations. I filed comprehensive reports with Mojave National Preserve Management, describing the dune rotation phenomenon. Park geologists reviewed my documentation, but had no explanation for sand dunes displaying mechanical rotation with gear, like coordinated movements suggesting impossible subsurface machinery driving natural geological formations. Geologists confirmed that sand dunes don't rotate mechanically. Dune movement occurs through gradual wind-driven sand transport over extended periods, not through coordinated rotation around vertical axes at rates of 15 degrees per minute. The documented mechanical behavior violated fundamental understanding of how sand dunes form, maintain shape, and respond to environmental forces. I contacted other desert rangers working in major dune systems, including Death Valley, Great Sand Dunes, and White Sands. One ranger mentioned occasionally hearing unusual sounds from dunes at night, but attributed them to singing sand phenomena. Another desert law enforcement officer described a night when dune positions seemed different than expected before surveys confirmed normal configurations. The indigenous peoples of the Mojave, including groups whose traditional territories include the Kelso region, have knowledge about the dunes as living entities connected to subsurface forces. According to their teachings, the sand formations move according to patterns and purposes that exceed wind-driven processes, demonstrating that dunes possess awareness and mechanical capabilities driven by earth forces operating beneath desert surfaces in ways modern geology doesn't recognize. I continue OFI patrol work at Kelso Dunes because protecting this unique geological resource requires dedicated enforcement presence. But I am different now during overnight patrols deep within the dune field, when sand formations rotate with mechanical precision, displaying gear, like coordinated movement, when geological features operate as connected machinery producing industrial sounds. When 55 minutes of documented rotation demonstrates that Kelso Dunes may possess subsurface mechanical systems driving surface formations, I understand that Mojave sand dunes may exceed our understanding of geological formations as purely wind-shaped features. That under specific conditions, dune systems can display mechanical rotation, suggesting subsurface machinery or forces that enable coordinated movement patterns, challenging assumptions about sand formations remaining static except for gradual wind-driven transport, demonstrating through impossible gear, like rotation producing mechanical acoustic signatures, that desert dune systems may operate by principles exceeding geological frameworks, teaching that sand accumulations respond only to surface wind forces rather than subsurface. See mechanical systems that my overnight patrol documentation confirmed through 55 minutes of coordinated rotational movement, but that dune geology indicates should be impossible for natural sand formations lacking structural frameworks or mechanical components enabling gear, like precision, rotation around vertical axes. My name is Cornelius Webb. I am 47 years old, and I've worked facility maintenance for Bureau of Land Management for 22 years, currently assigned as night custodian at Amboy Crater National Natural Landmark, a 6,000-year-old cinder cone requiring overnight facility, monitoring for the visitor center, trail infrastructure, and volcanic formation preservation in this remote Mojave Desert location. This happened last March during routine overnight maintenance operations at the crater site located along historic Route 66. Amboy Crater rises 250 feet above surrounding lava fields, with a hiking trail leading to the rim, providing access to the volcanic crater interior. My work involves facility security, trail condition, monitoring, and infrastructure maintenance during overnight hours, when visitor absence allows detailed work without public interaction. Volcanic monument custodial work requires systematic building inspection, trail assessment, and monitoring for vandalism or resource damage in isolated desert locations, where facilities may go days between ranger visits, during off-season periods requiring custodial staff to serve as primary site presence. I arrived at the Amboy Crater facility around 8 p.m., conducting initial building inspection and preparing for overnight maintenance work. Weather showed clear conditions with temperature around 58 degrees. Typical March evening in the Mojave, where spring temperatures moderate between winter cold and summer extreme heat. Around 1 a.m., while conducting trail condition assessment along the crater access path, I observed something impossible regarding the volcanic formation. The crater was filling with liquid, not rainwater or groundwater seepage. The volcanic crater interior was flooding with glowing molten material rising from the crater floor, as if the 6,000-year-old extinct cinder cone had resumed active lava lake formation, with incandescent liquid filling the volcanic depression. I've maintained volcanic monuments for 22 years. Extinct volcanoes don't reactivate. Amboy Crater's last eruption occurred 6,000 years ago. The formation is geologically dead, with no magma source or volcanic activity. Yet I was watching the crater interior fill with glowing liquid displaying all characteristics of active lava: incandescent orange glow, convective circulation patterns, gas emissions producing visible vapor. Through my observation position at the crater rim, I documented the impossible lava lake formation. The glowing liquid was rising from vents in the crater floor, filling the volcanic depression at a rate of approximately 1 foot per minute. The material showed typical basaltic lava characteristics: temperature around 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit based on color, viscous flow behavior, surface crust formation, and foundering. The rising lava filled approximately 40 feet of the crater's 250-foot depth during the observation period. The liquid mass produced heat radiating to the crater rim. I could feel thermal output consistent with actual molten rock, rather than any visual illusion or light effect. The convecting lava surface showed authentic magmatic behavior, with rising hot material creating upwelling zones and sinking cooled material forming downwelling patterns. Most unsettling was watching the lava interact with the crater walls, where rising liquid contacted the inner crater slopes. The volcanic cinder and ash didn't melt or react, suggesting the glowing material wasn't physically at lava temperature, despite displaying all visual characteristics of 2,000-degree molten rock. The impossible lava possessed heat and light properties without corresponding thermal effects on surrounding materials. Around 2:15 a.m., approximately 75 minutes after the lava began rising, the liquid started draining. The glowing material descended at the same rate it had risen, flowing back into the crater floor vents and disappearing into subsurface channels. Within 20 minutes, the crater was completely empty. All lava had drained away, leaving normal crater floor conditions, with no trace of the molten lake that had filled 40 feet of depth. I filed detailed reports with BLM describing the crater lava lake phenomenon. Volcanic geologists reviewed my documentation, but had no explanation for extinct cinder cones, displaying active lava lake formation, with glowing molten material rising from vents and volcanic features that lack magma chambers or any geological heat source, enabling lava generation. Volcanologists confirmed that extinct volcanoes 6,000 years dormant don't produce lava lakes. Amboy Crater has no magma reservoir, no geothermal system, no subsurface heat source that could generate molten rock. The documented lava lake formation violated fundamental understanding of volcanic systems and the geological requirements for lava generation and crater filling. I contacted other custodians at volcanic monuments, including Sunset Crater, Capulin, and Craters of the Moon. One maintenance worker mentioned occasionally seeing unusual light in crater interiors at night, but attributed it to moonlight reflections. Another volcanic site custodian described rare instances when crater floors appeared different during overnight facility checks before daylight revealed normal conditions. The indigenous peoples of the Mojave have traditional knowledge about Amboy Crater and its volcanic nature. According to their teachings, the crater sometimes remembers its active past and temporarily returns to that state, demonstrating that volcanic formations maintain connections to their eruptive history that can manifest as renewed activity when the Earth chooses to reveal that dormancy is conditional rather than permanent in desert volcanic fields. I continue custodial work at Amboy Crater because maintaining this volcanic monument requires dedicated overnight presence. But I am different now during trail inspections in the crater area, when extinct cinder cones fill with glowing lava rising from floor vents, when 600-year-old dormant volcanoes display active lava lake formation with authentic molten rock characteristics, when 75 minutes of documented crater filling demonstrates that Amboy Crater may maintain volcanic capabilities despite geological dormancy. I understand that extinct Mojave volcanoes may exceed our understanding of dormancy as permanent cessation of activity, that under specific conditions, ancient cinder cones can temporarily resume lava generation and crater lake formation, suggesting volcanic systems maintain subsurface connections enabling renewed activity that challenges assumptions about extinct volcanoes remaining permanently inactive, demonstrating through impossible lava lake development, producing authentic thermal radiation and magmatic behavior, that volcanic monuments in the Mojave may possess capabilities to temporarily return to eruptive states, despite lacking geological heat sources or magma reservoirs that volcanology teaches are absolutely required for lava generation, and crater filling in ways my overnight custodial documentation firmed through 75 minutes of active lava lake observation. But that volcanic geology indicates should be impossible for cinder cones dormant for 6,000 years. My name is Thaddeus Brennan. I am 44 years old, and I've worked cave interpretation for California State Parks for 19 years. Currently assigned to Mitchell Caverns, Natural Preserve in Providence Mountain State Recreation Area, where I conduct daily cave tours and overnight cave mows. Neutering in limestone caverns, requiring continuous environmental assessment and visitor safety management in this remote Mojave Desert location. This happened last November during overnight cave monitoring operations. Mitchell Caverns consist of 3 limestone caves, El Paquiva, Tacopa, and an unnamed connecting passage, formed through water dissolution of carbonate rock, creating chambers decorated with stalactites, stalagmites, and other speleothems. My work involves daily tour leadership and overnight monitoring of cave conditions, including temperature, humidity, and formation stability. Cave monitoring requires overnight presence during off-season, when visitor absence allows detailed environmental assessment without tour schedule constraints, conducting systematic chamber inspection to identify changes in formation conditions, water seepage patterns, or structural issues requiring maintenance intervent. I entered the cave system around 7 p.m. through the visitor center access tunnel, planning overnight monitoring of all 3 chambers with particular attention to El Paquiva Cave, where recent seasonal moisture had raised concerns about formation stability and potential new speleothem development. Cave environment remains constant year, round at approximately 65 degrees with high humidity. Ideal conditions for continued mineral deposition that creates and maintains the decorative formations that make Mitchell Caverns significant among Mojave Desert limestone caves. Around 11 p.m., while conducting detailed inspection of El Paquiva Cave's main chamber, I observed something impossible regarding the cave formations. The speleothems were moving, not growing through mineral deposition. The stalactites and stalagmites were actively relocating within the chamber, detaching from ceiling and floor positions and moving to different locations before reattaching to new positions, as if the cave formations possessed mobility independent of the fixed rock structures they're supposed to represent. I've worked cave environments for 19 years. Speleothems don't move. Cave formations are permanently attached to bedrock, growing incrementally through mineral deposition over thousands of years. Stalactites and stalagmites don't detach and relocate. Yet, I was watching Mitchell Caverns formations moving throughout the chamber, changing positions and creating different decorative arrangements. Through the main chamber, I observed detailed, impossible movement. A stalactite would detach from its ceiling position, descend through the air without physical support, and attach to a different ceiling location 20 feet away where no formation had previously existed. A stalagmite would lift from the floor, move horizontally across the chamber, and plant itself in new floor position, creating formation arrangements that didn't match any cave survey documentation. The formation movement was systematic and deliberate, not random. Stalactites and stalagmites were rearranging themselves to create new decorative patterns, columns forming where none had existed, formation clusters developing in previously bare areas, decorative complexity increasing through systematic repositioning of individual speleothems. Most unsettling was that the relocated formations showed authentic attachment to new positions. Where a stalactite attached to a new ceiling location, the rock showed integration suggesting thousands of years of mineral deposition had created the connection, despite my observation of the formation moving and attaching within minutes. The cave was somehow creating geological history for formations that had just relocated to new positions. The speleothem movement continued for approximately 65 minutes. During that time, El Paquiva Cave's decorative formations completely rearranged themselves, creating chamber aesthetics that didn't match the cave survey maps and photographic documentation I'd studied and used for tour interpretation throughout my 19-year career at Mitchell Caverns. Around 10 a.m., all movement abruptly ceased. Within moments, the formations began returning to their original positions. Stalactites and stalagmites relocated back to positions, matching cave survey documentation and my memory of the chamber's normal appearance. By 12:30 a.m., the cave appeared exactly as it should according to established documentation. The 65 minutes of formation rearrangement had completely reversed. I filed comprehensive reports with California state parks describing the speleothem movement phenomenon. Cave geologists reviewed my documentation, but had no explanation for cave formations, displaying autonomous movement and relocation capabilities without physical forces or geological processes, enabling stalactite and stalagmite detachment, transport, and reattachment to new positions. Speleologists confirmed that cave formations don't move autonomously. Speleothems are permanently attached rock features that grow through mineral deposition over thousands of years. They don't detach from host rock, move through cave chambers, and reattach to new positions. The documented formation, relocation, violated fundamental understanding of cave geology and speleothem formation processes. I contacted other cave specialists working at limestone cavern systems throughout the western United States. One ranger from Carlsbad Caverns mentioned occasionally finding formation arrangements that seemed different than previous observations before detailed surveys confirmed normal configurations. Another cave guide from Oregon Caves described rare instances when chamber decorations appeared to have changed positions overnight before photographic comparison verified consistency with historical documentation. The indigenous peoples, whose traditional territories include the Providence Mountains, have knowledge about caves as living places where rock formations maintain awareness and mobility. According to their teachings, speleothems occasionally rearrange themselves to create new beauty or to demonstrate that stone features we consider permanent and static actually possess life and movement capabilities that become visible when caves choose to reveal their dynamic nature. I continue cave interpretation work at Mitchell Caverns because sharing these limestone formations with visitors requires experienced guides committed to accurate geological education and cave preservation. But I am different now during overnight monitoring in the cave chambers. When stalactites and stalagmites detach from host rock and relocate to new positions, when speleothems move autonomously through chambers, creating different decorative arrangements, when 65 minutes of documented formation rearrangement demonstrates that Mitchell Caverns features may possess mobility capability. I understand that limestone cave formations may exceed our understanding of speleothems as permanently fixed features, that under specific conditions stalactites and stalagmites can display autonomous movement and relocation abilities, suggesting cave formations maintain life characteristics, enabling characteristics, temporary mobility that challenges geological assumptions about speleothems, remaining permanently attached to host rock in fixed positions, determined by mineral deposition processes occurring over thousands of years, demonstrating through systematic formation, relocation, and authentic geological integration at new attachment points that cave decorations in Mojave Desert limestone caverns may operate by principles exceeding speleothem formation. Science that my overnight monitoring documentation confirmed through 60 GAN. 5 minutes of impossible movement, but that cave geology indicates should be absolutely impossible for mineral formations that lack mobility mechanisms or geological processes enabling detachment, transport, and reattachment capabilities.